Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's November 11th, 2020, and today I thought I'd share with you some of my thoughts on the King Richard leeks, which we've been growing for several years, grown from seed, and how things turned out this year because we changed things a little bit. One of the things that I wanted to confront was the problems with the immense amount of weeds that we have once we transplant them into the gardens. So first I'll just say we start with our seeds and sow the seeds in 72 cell flats in a soilless mixture on March 6, 2020. That's when we did it this season. And during the first week of June, is after having the beds all prepped, we went ahead and transplanted them into our permanent raised beds. And we used two beds to do this. They're both about 30 to 36 inches wide. They're about 12 inches higher than the paths on their sides. And instead of doing 3 rows of the leeks, the way we've done it, and I got this idea, this technique from J.M. Fortier, the market gardener, we decided to go down to 2 rows because I don't have the time to go out and do the weeding. So typically we use like one of the cultivators, go ahead and go right down around the leeks, but you really should go out and do that every week. And leeks aren't one of those plants that make much of a canopy that shade out competition from other weeds. So I decided to use our weed mat strategy that, if you've been watching our videos, you see this, the last couple of years I've gradually been transitioning to having a single row of plants and basically eliminating all weeds in our gardens. But the leeks pose a big problem, so instead of doing 3 rows down a 30 or 36 inch wide bed, I decided to go with 2 rows and have the weed mats come up to the outside of the 2 rows and touch the leeks at the outer edges, and then create another weed mat that was 12 inches wide that would go down and touch the inside of each of them. So the only places that we would have weeds develop is in between each one of the leeks and in each one of those rows. So there's 2 rows in each raised bed, so a total of 4 rows that we could have some weeds start to develop. And so we did have that happen a couple times during the year, and I didn't get to them when they're real small. I pulled out the weeds later on, so there was competition, but the leeks ended up doing extremely well ultimately. Our way of getting the transplants, so the leeks themselves are probably 14, 16, 18, 24 inches long from the base of the roots all the way up to the tip of the leek plants by the time going from March 6th to the first week in June. And so what we do is we use an old broom handle to dig down at least 12 inches into the soil, excuse me, and then we drop the leek all the way down into the hole that's there. And then gradually we start filling some of the soil up, and we always want to have lots of the green part of the leek available for the solar radiation. By using a long dibbler and really placing the leek seedling all the way down in the hole, that allows a long section of the more desirable part of the leek to develop. So we have long white parts, the parts that we're going to be using and processing. So that worked out extremely well, and you can refer back to the garden update videos. You can see throughout the season how things actually worked out with the leek plants. They worked extremely well. So this last weekend, we had a really nice warm spell going on. So I went out, removed the weed mats from the side, removed the central weed mat that was going down between the rows of the leeks. And what I did then was going ahead and moving because I had 3 drip lines going down to water these 2 rows of leeks in each row. And I removed the central drip line, and then I used a small fork that probably has about 10 or 12 inches long but very thick tines on it, and I used that to go ahead and loosen up the soil some. And that way I was able to grab a hold of the leeks, pull them out. I trimmed a little bit of the roots off. I tried to get some of the areas the soil was still wet, and I had disconnected the watering to the leeks 2 weeks before. But by the soil still being wet, it still hung up in the roots some, so I had to struggle to try to get some of the soil out of the roots. Then I went ahead and trimmed off the roots partially. I left about an inch of a lot of the roots still there. And then I pruned off the tops of the greens, like everyone does. All of the material that was the green material ended up going up for mulching the hazelnuts, as I've been doing this season, throughout the season. Excuse me. Then I placed all those out in the sugar shack, which was pretty cool, in the wooded area. So that stayed pretty cool until the next morning. Then I went ahead, got all of the leeks out. We had them in bins out there in the sugar shack. Brought them back up. I set up a little place right outside of the garage. And usually I use a washing tub that we have over here, but I figured since we had fewer leeks to process this year, I thought what I'd do is go ahead, cut off the end of the leeks, which still had some root on it, and this year I'm going to go ahead and I went ahead and tried putting those into some frozen ground, unfortunately. It was still frozen at this time, and covered up with a little bit of soil. And we'll see if those come up and give us the second year growth of the leeks, and therefore I may be able to gather seed for them next season. So we'll see if that works out. But I went ahead and stripped down the leeks, got them all in some gray tubs. Then we went into the house, and Thea went through using our Breville food processor to take these, slice them up, then take the slices, put them in bins of water, let the water sift through the leek slices that are there, and the sand and silt will drop to the bottom. Using a small screen to place it into screen sections, let them start to dry out. Then they went into 5-gallon buckets, and I think I ended up having 4, 5, 6, or at least 5 full 5-gallon buckets, or 4 full 5-gallon buckets, and a couple of 3-gallon buckets as well. Brought them over here to our 8 dehydrators, completely filled up all the 8 dehydrators. They were dehydrated, and ended up getting 21 quarts that I put down of dehydrated leeks, put down into the root cellar, and we have several quarts still in the house that we'll use as well. And we also had quite a few 1-gallon bags that we put into the freezers as well. But our freezers are pretty much jam-packed at this point. So that's the process that we went through. There'll be a little bit of GoPro footage of Thea doing some of the processing in the kitchen, and we'll take it from there. So here are the leek bases with some of the roots still intact. I have them at different sizes all in here. I have a couple of small leeks that really didn't develop large enough. They were attached to other leeks. So I'm going to stick these in the ground in the second food forest and see if we get some leeks and then some leek seeds next season. I'm going to put these in the garage for right now. Okay, this is Thea working at her station here with the leeks.
Are you sneaking up on me again?
Yes, I know you wanted to be a superstar.
Haha, absolutely.
There we go.
Would you like a tour?
Yeah, explain what you're doing.
You're very bad sneaking up on me. Kevin does his fancy dancy work and puts them here, and then we put them through the Breville food processor and make them in little loops. Then we empty it over here and in the water and swish it around, and Namaste helps, and all the dirt falls to the bottom. Then what I do is I gently scoop it out, and I have 2 strainers in the sink, and we go ahead and we have all the dirt at the bottom and nice fresh stuff, and then once those are full, we take that and dump them in the clean buckets, which we wiped out, cleaned, and then sprayed it with vinegar. There's a couple more buckets over there. So it looks like we'll probably get about 4 5-gallon pails, I think.
Yep.
And then after that, we'll go ahead and go to the work area and put them in the dehydrators in single layers. So we have 8 Excalibur dehydrators with about 10 shells. We'll use a set of 11. They'll probably all be full. And tomorrow they'll be dry, and we'll vacuum seal them in quart jars with the lids. And then we'll cook with them.
Sounds
Make
great.
Kevin's fancy dancy meals he loves.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, hon.
You're welcome. Wait, did you get Namaste in the picture?
Oh, yes,
She tries to help. This is Miss Namaste.
She's an angel.
She's a sweetie cat. Okay. There.
So I think in closing that this system worked the best so far for all the systems we've used here. And one of my goals was to get plenty of good food, highly nutritious food for us out of the gardens this year, with as little site visits needed for maintaining them, less weeding. Our integrative pest management systems have been working extremely well. The weed mats have helped out tremendously with controlling the weeds that ultimately develop in your gardens. And the drip irrigation really cut down on our watering needs and took care of our gardens during this drought. And so one of the plants that I had the most challenges with in the past with weeds were the leeks. And so I think this system worked out pretty darn well. I'll be thinking about ways that I can fine tune it as time goes on as well. So that's it with our leeks so far. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I'll try and make some updates on the garlics, the beans, and the rest of some of the other crops. I'll try to produce some videos on those topics as well. We're still trying to get a few more things out of the garden, but we're just about there. So if you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and by all means, folks, take good care of yourselves and stay safe. Bye-bye now.